Hi everyone, it's Mark here again. This is CAHEP. We are CAHEP. We are CAHEP. Sounds like we are the Borg. We're not extraterrestrial in nature. You do not need to fear us. Cut that. Or not. Anyways, it's Mark from CAHEP, Community Arts and Heritage Education Project. I am back once again with another video, an art instruction video. As we've been going into the cookhouse, which is an assisted living facility here in Thunder Bay, and working in the actual cookhouse with residents that are there, doing different projects every month, and then making a video about it, and making art kits, and delivering those art kits to the people at the cookhouse. So if you weren't there at the session, you get to watch the video, get the art kits, and do it on your own, and do it with some friends, get some strangers, I don't know, whatever floats your boat. This is actually the final one in this series of ones that we're doing. We're doing 6 sessions and then 6 videos. I'm gonna call it the end of the first season. We'll see if we get picked up for a second season. I don't know, check your cable listings. Who checks cable anymore? I don't. Anyways, so without further ado, we're going to jump right in. This is my friend Angie, who does some fantastic stuff. Super creative, super fun, very resourceful, which as an artist, it makes it that much more fun. And we're doing placemats. I was going to explain this. I'm not even sure I'm going to go that far into it. It's placemats, or you can use them as wall hanging art. You can do whatever. You can do them big, you can do them small, however you want to do it. It's working on canvas with crayon, and it's kind of, I'm not even going to explain it. Just go check it out. Okay, I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name is Angie, and we're going to be working on some Winter Wonderland placemats. I've got a few samples to show you here, and we will be creating these with simple crayon techniques, ironing on the color to make it color fast, and then using embroidery thread to go ahead and detail our projects with to make them extra special. Each one can be unique. As you see, you can use your own range of colors and ideas. We've made some simple templates for the snowman and the trees just to make it a little bit easier for you, but you can go ahead and be as creative as you want with your backgrounds. At the cookhouse, we'll have these bags ready for you with your supplies that you're going to need inside. Once you open the bag, you will find a box of Crayola crayons, some embroidery threads, a piece of parchment paper for pressing, a piece of canvas that we'll be using as the base of our placemat, our stencils that you can trace around to make your scene, or you can come up with a scene of your own. And on the snowman, we will have included a needle and a needle threader. Now, items you might also need are
Coffee.
His coffee. A pair of scissors, just for trimming your threads. A pencil that you can use for tracing, although you don't need to. You can use your crayons, but sometimes people feel a little more comfortable with a pencil. And the iron that we will be using for pressing and melting the crayon into the fabric.
Right. So for those that aren't at the cookhouse and aren't going to get this art kit, it's just straight up crayons. This embroidery thread, I'll zoom in here, Like it's
on
just
the white.
it's just straight up embroidery thread. You can usually find this for fairly inexpensive. Find it whatever sort of colors that you want. In the art kit, we have like a choice of colors. You might not use all of these at all, but totally up to you. Obviously, parchment paper is pretty easy to get. You can get it at a dollar store or something like that. The only more difficult things would be the needle and the threader if you would require a threader. It just makes it easier. If you want to get and make your own sort of stencils, you can absolutely do that. That's just more like a cardstock sort of paper. And then the canvas itself.
And you can use any heavier weight fabric as well.
Yeah.
If you don't have the ability to find canvas. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is remove our needle and our threader, and we're going to set that aside along with the threads, and we're just going to put that off to the side while we get started. So we've got our crayons out here, we've got our canvas on top of our paper bag, just as a background, and you can decide where to put your stencils. You may want to put them opposite sides. You can flip them over if you want it going that way. You could also do something where you could overlap them and have the snowman and the tree sitting together. Basically, we created them so that the snowman you're seeing the back of the snowman looking out at the sky. So he doesn't have a lot of detail on him. So once you decide where you'd like to place him, you can sit them down, and again, you can trace them with a pencil and go around them, whoops, like that. Or you can take a crayon and you can trace around them with that. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little bit better. And I'm just going to trace around with the crayon, just lightly. And I'm going to use green for my tree.
I was going to say, yeah, pick the right color for the
Yeah,
tracing.
yeah.
Although I guess you could have
You can make
a weird color around.
You can make a funky tree if you want.
Whatever
make
you
a
want.
blue spruce or a red Christmas tree. And I'm just going to trace around my tree. Find the brown. Trace around my trunk. Like that. Now, an interesting little... oops, I didn't trace. If you do need to help out with any of the lines, you can just use the stencil and use different parts of it. And there we're just going to make a little line for our tree. Go over that so I can see it. And there we have our tree. Now for the snowman, I'm going to use the lightest blue in the pack. And that, we're going to end up coloring him white. So with the little bit of blue that we're going to trace, it'll make a nice little highlight and shadow around him. Just going to trace around there. Oops. Like that.
Like a happy little snowman.
Yeah, it's a happy little snowman in the snow. And then we can use the curves on the snowman to create the rest of his bumps. There we go. Oop. Put him back on there. We'll get the orange out and we'll give him a nose. Like that. Now this is where you get to be creative. And you can decide where your snow line is going to be, where you want your horizon. So I'm going to prefer maybe having a lot of sky and a little bit of snow. So I'm going to start low on this side.
And are you using the same blue?
Yeah, I'm using the same light blue, and that'll blend in again with the white.
Great.
So I'm going to bring up a little hill up on this side. There. And you can also put a little shadow line under your snowman. Put one under your tree. Put some little snow drifts in there if you want. There. So that's how we're going to start. And now we can start coloring. I prefer to start with the white, just because that makes it a little less smudgy if you're going to be using darker colors. And you just start coloring and color right on top of that blue line. And that's going to lighten it as well and soften it.
And you basically just want to fill in wherever you think the white, well, wherever white is going to be.
Yeah, wherever your snow is going to be.
Wherever your snow is going to be.
And I like to peel the paper off my crayons and actually break them into smaller usable pieces and just go over putting a nice thick coat of wax all over that. And that'll take...
Right, because crayons are essentially wax.
Yes.
So this is like a different form of encaustic. In a way.
Or like almost like a batik.
Yeah.
Sort of, you're going to be melting the wax. The color from the crayons are going to go into the fabric and be color set when we iron them. And they will blend as well. So when you get into your sky, you can start blending colors, making northern lights. You can do sunrises or sunsets.
Yeah, so think about what sort of colors you want. Even with like the tree, doesn't have to be a solid green. You can have multiple greens. You can have different colors mixed in, blues and reds and whatever you want to do. Same with the snowman. We could fill in it all of it with white, or we could have a little accent of other colors.
Okay, people, I'm coloring as fast as I can. You don't need to rush. You can do a slow, dedicated job on your own. There's a lot of white, that's all.
So it would be hard to see on the video exactly, but you can probably see it a little bit just depending on how the light is hitting it. But it's the white on the canvas it doesn't glaringly stand out, but you can kind of see up close that if you've got enough or not, or if you have to go over it a little bit and add more white.
And it also helps making sure that you've got a nice coating of wax over the whole placemat.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's a little bit waterproofed even. So if you do have a little bit of a, if you're having a snack and you get a little bit of crumbs or something on there, you can easily wipe it off with just a damp cloth. And the whole thing will have a little bit of a waxy film on, so it does protect the artwork a little bit. There we go. So once we have a nice good coating of that, you can feel it. You can feel sort of the wax building up. You can go in different directions just to catch in the fibers. Like that. I like going in a few different directions. It just kind of helps get, especially with the white.
Yeah.
So that you can see it.
It gets into the fibers.
Yeah. So then we're going to give him a little orange nose. You'll notice the colors are going to show up a lot brighter. There, so he's got a nose. We'll do the stem on our tree. Again, going in a few different directions helps get more wax on there. You can press pretty hard so that you get that wax built up right in there. That. And then we can do the tree next.
And if you do have problems with your hands and you can't do this for long stints, you can always do this in stages.
Take a break whenever you need to.
Yeah.
Again, because you're putting a lot of layers on, you don't need to be super careful about your coloring, because it's going to end up being a nice thick layer of wax in there, which is going to melt together a little bit. So I'm going to probably use a little bit of the darker green as well in there, just to give them some highlights. A little bit extra, like that. Something there.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be something to watch for, because if you can see in that line, if there's something underneath, I guess.
Yeah, you can pick up patterns,
Yeah.
which would actually be...
It could be, you could
yeah,
use it to your advantage.
Interesting if you had, say, a piece of corrugated box or something under there. You could make some neat ridgy patterns.
Yep.
Or a piece of lace even under it. You could make a lacy pattern in your sky. Every time I do this project, I think of new things. There's so many things you could do that it's limitless. You can use your imagination any way you want to do it. You see in here as we go, we sort of make some little branch-like strokes. And we can enhance that after, even with the sewing of how we want to portray our tree. At this point, you could also, instead of coloring the whole tree just green, you could add decorations to your tree. If you wanted to put bubbles on it or a star at the top, you could put some tinsel or something around it.
You can also bring in other colors. You can accent, like green is made up of yellow and blue. So you could bring a blue in that kind of changes the tone of it, or like she's bringing in the yellow here, so it adds a little different, changes the color of the green.
And again, the more wax you put on, the deeper colors that you're going to build up.
Yeah, so if it's just a light running of the crayon, when you go to iron it, it doesn't darken it, it doesn't flatten everything, but so it's a good idea to layer quite a bit on there, even if it's the same color.
Blue in there to mix with the yellow. And if you go over the lines a little bit, it doesn't really matter. Just iron, once you iron it in there and you're going to sew around it. Yeah, so we got that done. Now for the sky. Okay, for the sky, these are some of the finished samples. So you can see this one, I did a sunrise. This one, I did a cold, snowy day with the wind blowing. And the background on this one was just completely blue. And I think I used every shade of blue, layering it up along with a little bit of purple. And on this one, I went wild. And I used the pink and the yellow and the blue, and I made swirls all in the colors before I stitched it.
Very Van Gogh Starry Night.
Yes. So on this one, I think what I'll do is sort of just an easy sunrise, so it doesn't take too long. And I'm going to start with the lightest pink. And you'll see the lightest pink, the darker, sort of rosier pink, and then there's a lighter purple and a darker purple, and then the darkest blue that we have in the pack. So what I've done is I've taken the papers off just to make it easier.
Great.
And I'm going to turn this a little bit sideways. And I'm just going to start layering up. So this will be sort of at dusk. When the sun has went down, you still have a little bit of glow coming out. But it'll be a clear night, this one, I think, because on this one, I think when I do the sewing, I'm going to put stars in the sky. That's always something you can just decide as you're going along what you'd like to have in your sky. You could do snowflakes, you can do stars.
Birds, Santa.
Yeah, you put Rudolph flying over the...
Falling satellites, you know.
Alien spaceships.
Exactly.
I know you wanted to say that.
I do. That's exactly what I want to do.
And again, I like using that side of the crayon because it goes so much quicker. And it tends to layer a little bit more on, I find. Again, these colors can overlap.
Yeah, so you're not having a defined line of this color, then this color. It does kind of look like it, but they are overlapping. And especially when you iron it, it'll smooth that out a bit.
And the reason I like putting the bag underneath is so that I can go right to the edge with my colors and not have to worry about drawing on my table. We try not to draw onto our other objects as best we can. Keep going up in darker and darker colors. Like I said, I'm thinking of having a starry sky, but I'm not going to add the stars right now in the colors. You can if you want to draw stars on there first, but for the sake of the video, we're going to do it this way because it's just a little bit quicker to show you how to do the sky.
And you can pick whatever colors you want. Like, it doesn't have to be a normal representative sort of sky. You can put a wild collection of colors. Just pick your favorite colors and go nuts.
Yeah, and you can color right out onto your fringes.
Right.
And we can enhance the fringes later on too. We can pull out some of the threads so we can have a little bit of more of a fringe going around. There you go. So now what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of time and just deepen these colors up.
And again, if you need to take a break with your hands, just take a break as you need it. Come back, layer it in a bit more and a bit more. I want to take a few sessions to do that. Ah, that's the culprit. There was a thread inside the bag. So you can see one tiny little thread made that little mark across there.
Which won't be a big deal in our overall process.
No,
so
no.
Don't worry about it too much.
Happy little accident.
That's right. But just think, if you cut out little stars and put underneath there and then colored on top of them, you'd end up with some really
There you go.
cool little, if you have little star stickers or snowflake stickers to put onto the bag and then color on top of
then
it.
you don't even have to draw individual things or the texture that's underneath, and it just pops right out.
I'm going in the opposite direction for a little while now, just again to build up some of that color. Take a little bit of tangerine color and throw right in at the bottom. All right, so now we're going to go back to that light blue color, and very, very lightly, I'm just going to give our snowman a little bit of shadow. Because the stars will be shining down on him this way, so he'll have more of a highlight on this side. He'll be in a little bit of shadow in the background.
And with that, you're not pressing as hard as you have been. So it's just more of a lighter tinge. Because remember, the white crayon is already on there, so you're just adding that color on top of it. So it's just a little accent. A little shadow on the ground.
Just very lightly. Again, you can go over with some more white just to soften that. All right, And I think we have enough color. And we're ready to start ironing now.
Perfect.
All right, so it's time to iron our placemat. If you don't have an ironing board, you can always use a towel or two layered up on top of your counter or on top of a work table. And then we're going to put our paper bag back down just as a protectant. Even if you have an ironing board, put that down just so you don't get any wax on your ironing board. And then we're going to put our artwork down, face up with the color up. And then we're going to cover it with the parchment paper. And we're going to take a nice hot iron. Make sure that you don't have any water in your iron. You don't need steam for this. So we want to turn it up as high as we can get it without having the steam option come on the iron. And we just want to make sure, double sure, and make sure the iron doesn't have any water in it. And then what we're going to start doing is just ironing. And it's just a slow iron. Don't really need to rub, just need to press. Press it for about 15 seconds in each spot. And then just move along slowly.
Really, you're just trying to heat this in order to
melt the wax
in the crayon.
And it doesn't really look like it's melting a whole lot on the canvas, but it is going deeper into the fibers of the canvas so that it's dyeing right into the fabric and making it color fast.
And remember that you do have white on there too, so it's not just the color, it's the entire thing. You've put crayon over the entire piece of canvas. So.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons, again, for putting wax all over the canvas, is just to make it a little bit more durable when you're using it as a placemat, so that, water will bead up on it. If you have a little slop, you can get it off there quickly, or just wiping, crumbs or whatever on it.
And if you don't even have to use this as a placemat. This could be a fun wall hanging, or just something it's just a piece of art.
Or a little table runner on your coffee table, just to make you smile.
There you go.
You can see it's not looking a whole lot different. There's sometimes a little bit of the wax you probably can't see on camera, but you can see a little bit of the wax color is coming off on the paper, and that's why we want to make sure we use an iron. Or use parchment paper, sorry. Right. Just move that over a little bit, make sure that we're not going to be that.
Because without the parchment paper, that would come off right onto the iron.
Yeah, and smear around. Yeah. So now, as we look at it, if we decide we'd like a little bit more color, you can always go back in, and the wax actually goes on quite nice when the fabric is warm. So you can add a little bit more color in spots if you want. Layer it up. It isn't necessary because the colors will really start to pop once we add in the stitching.
Yeah. And again, when you do the ironing, it doesn't drastically change what the crayon looks like. So don't expect it to suddenly completely smooth out. You do have that canvas texture, and that's going to stay. It's more that it's setting into the canvas and changing how it's sitting on it.
So again, just a little bit more color while that canvas is warm. You can blend it up again. And again, it isn't necessary. Some of us just like color.
Some of us just like crayons.
Takes you back to when you were smaller.
It does. I was talking to a friend the other day about this, that I went to go pick up crayons, and I had a big bag of them, and I opened the bag, and the smell that comes off. Crayons have such a distinct smell, and it was they say smell is linked to memory very distinctly, and I suddenly felt like I was 5 years old on the floor just drawing with crayons.
I think that is how we all started out, was
Yep.
drawing with crayons.
Exactly.
So it's kind of neat to pull them back in.
Mm-hmm. It's not just for kids.
And this works really well, this technique. If you do it on cotton, you can get really cool little effects. And when you stitch on them, you can actually add them to quilting designs or other projects that you're doing.
You can go back and embellish the white a little more.
Like I said, it goes on to the warm fabric even better. So that's one little trick if you want to use it.
But you can see that it does bleed a little bit. There was some of that in the ironing and the heat set that it actually went across that line a little bit.
Yeah.
But
And again, it's no big deal, because
Yep.
when we start doing the stitching, a lot of those little things that you may notice right now that you're thinking, oh no, you won't even notice it
Yeah.
once the stitching goes on. So we're going to do this one more time. Again, the longer you press it, the more heat set that's going to be. So. Right. I think we're done. And we're ready to start stitching. We'll just let that cool off for a few minutes. Now we're all ready to start stitching. So the first part I'm going to stitch is his nose. It's very small, so it's going to be an easy spot to start with. And I've got my orange thread here, and I'm going to take off probably about an arm's length of thread.
nippity dippity.
There we go. Now, I don't know if everybody has used a needle threader before. So what you do is you take your needle threader and put it through the eye of the needle, like that. And then put your thread through it. And then pull it out. And it automatically threads your needle, which makes it much easier than trying to poke that thread through the eye of the needle. You can see how small it is. And then bring your threads down so that they're uneven, like that. We're going to be using a single thread, and we're going to tie a knot at the bottom of the longer thread. Just a little double knot, like that.
So we can pull this out, and we'll just have it on the towel so we can see. So you've got that threaded through, and in the longer one, there's a little bit of a knot just at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to start by going in through from the back. I can do this so that you can see. And I'm going to come up right on the edge of his nose there. And for this one, I'm going to go around the outline of his nose first. So I'm going to put it down, pull it through. We're going to come up just very close, not in the same hole, but very close to that. I'm going to give it a little tug. Make sure that none of the threads are getting caught up on the back. Go back down.
And you can do whatever sort of pattern you like. If you want to have big spaces in between, different directions. You can create texture, you can create little designs. Doing the outline like she's doing right now.
It's a simple going
Back and forth,
in
and out, back.
and out. And just again, this one I'm almost overlapping the stitches a little bit just because it's such a small little area. I want his nose to be very noticeable, sticking out. If you get a little knot, pull it back. Bring it back through. Again, keep checking the back, making sure you don't have any snarls of yarn back there or thread back there. Okay. Now, if you want, you can give him a few little carrot wrinkles on his nose. Adding a few little stitches in. You could cover the whole thing in stitches like this, called a satin stitch. But these ones are just going to be little accent stitches. If you're already familiar with embroidery stitching, you have a lot more options of different stitches, obviously, that you can use. But for the basic part, I'm just using a basic running stitch. There. So now we have his nose done. We're going to turn this over. And we are going to just catch a little bit of the canvas or one of the other threads. Keep our loop there. And bring our threads through. And with that little loop that we've left, we're going to put our needle through it twice. And pull it tight. And that's going to make a little knot so that our threads don't come undone. And we'll just snip that off.
And that's the same basic idea that you're going to do throughout. So you can do whatever sort of patterns and approach, but that same sort of starting underneath, coming up, and then when you finish, do the double loop, or loop doubling it up, and then cutting it off. And there you go.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to thread a different color this time. And again, here's our needle, and there is the hole in our needle.
So it's that weird, so it's a plastic base with the wire.
Yeah, our needle threader.
And then that just goes through the threaded.
I have to be able to see it. There, so it goes through the eye of the needle. We're going to take our thread, put our thread through that nice big hole that we can all see. Oops. This is hard to do on camera.
so much pressure.
Not at the right angle for my bifocals, folks. All right, and so once we have that through, then we're just going to pull it through. Yeah, like that. Cool. And I already have a knot tied at this end again.
Yep, so then the longer
part gets the knot.
Right.
All right, so for this, we're going to do a little bit of accenting under our snowman, and we're going to do a longer stitch. So we're going to come up in his little snow shadow there, and turn this around so it's easier for the camera. So what you can do is another way of doing it. You can go down and up like we were doing before. And this time I'm going to leave that little space in there. So I'm just going to be making it looks like a dotted line. You'll be able to see here the spaces I'm doing. Up and down. very meditative once you get going. Oops. Don't poke your fingers. Like that. And go around the snowman. You can just kind of fold the fabric up where you're, so you can grab it with your hands a little bit easier. So now that's one way to do the running stitch, sort of going up and down like that. Another way to do it, and it just makes it a little bit faster, oops, sorry, is if you go down and then come up with your needle like that, go down, come up, go down, come up, and then pull it all the way through. And then you get a whole row of stitches. Now you want to make sure that you're not pulling too tight. You don't want your fabric to pucker. This is thick fabric, so you don't have to worry too much. But you can just follow your line that you made there. You can get 3 or 4, well, maybe 2 or 3 stitches in as you go. There we go. And then I'm going to end that one off. Just make sure both ends are pulled through. And there you have your line underneath your snowman.
Lovely.
And I'm going to tie that off. Again, just picking up one of the little threads from the canvas. Make our loop. Go through it twice and pull it, and there's our little knot. And just snip it off. There.
Ta-da!
Okay, so I've decided I'm going to put a big star right there in my sky. I may put some other smaller little stars around, but this is going to be my main star. So I've put some yellow in my needle, and I'm going to pull it up. And I'm going to make one of those old-fashioned 5-pointed stars. And hopefully I remember how to do this as from a child. It's easier when you have a pencil in your hand.
It is. It's a trick.
Now you could draw this on just to make your life easier.
Yeah.
All right. Wish me luck here, people. I'm winging it.
Very good.
And the nice thing about the sewing part, if you don't like it, you can always take it out.
Yep.
And
pull the threads out and
yeah,
start again.
do it again. You don't get quite the effect you were looking for. All right, so we have a little star. And we'll put some little twinkle spots around him.
Yeah, and so when you're in the back of it, you can always change direction and go to a different spot. And
Yeah. The back won't always look as neat as the front does.
no.
But if you're a professional embroiderer, you'll know that sometimes some people are very neat on the back, and the backs look almost as good as the fronts. So, but on this one, I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on myself. So we've made a little twinkly star. I may decide to fill him in later on. with some stitches like I did on the nose, just to fill in the middle if I want, just to make them stand out a little bit more. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And eventually what I will do is stitch with the white threads. I'll stitch around my snowman, and you can use white or the light blue for that. And I'll highlight my other lines here. I will go over my tree. And like I said, for this one, I'm going to be adding other stars. I might add a few little swirls like we did in the other ones.
Yeah. So we're not going to show everything of this particular one, but we have other, just like the snowman is here. So there's that stitching that's done.
Yeah, the snowman here has a chain stitch. The white has chain stitching. And the tree just has a long running stitch, as well as the sky. So you can see on the tree, this one has the sort of the little needle effect on it.
Gives it texture and direction.
Yeah, on this one, I made little V's, so that you can use that on the tree as well to make like little branches.
And you did a different style of stars here.
Yeah, these are little snowflakes I made.
Snowflakes, sorry,
So they're just basically a crisscross stitch.
Yep.
And then we stitched in some swirls on that one. The snowman on this one, I just did the same close running stitch, but I did him in blue as well as the snow in blue. Did a little detail on the trunk. The other one, let's see. On this one, again, the tree, we did the running stitch down. I just put the stitches closer together. And I highlighted all the colors in this one with the sun rising with the rays.
That would have taken a little bit more time because you're taking, here's one color, then finding the next colors and the next color and just layering it, but it gives it an interesting effect.
Yeah. It's very fun. Once you get stitching like that, and especially when you can do it in and out with your needle and the running stitch that way, it goes rather quickly. And again, it's very, very meditative to do. It's relaxing while you're sitting having coffee, or if you're watching TV, you can sit and stitch. It's very, very pleasant and enjoyable. Oh, no, that was all of them there. Yeah. So have some fun, get creative.
Lots of different ideas you can do. We've shown a bunch here, and we've just mentioned a bunch of other ones as well.
Yeah. And it goes from sort of this flat looking design to something that really pops out once you get that stitching in.
The embroidery really accents it really well and changes the entire picture.
Really brings them to life.
It does. So that's something to think about even just when you're starting, like, where am I going to go with this? What am I going to do? You can always change your mind, of course, and develop it as you go, but things to think about, like, what sort of color am I going to do for the background sky? And are you going to do swirl sort of things? You'd have to plan that out, or do with the sunrise with the rays coming out. So lots to think about.
And sometimes, like Chris said, you change your mind as you're going along and you think, oh, this would look so much nicer, and you'll do that too. If you have any little beads, you could always add beads or some kind of embellishments along with it. There's lots of possibilities.
Yeah, and as we said with when you're doing the crayon part, having textures underneath and little, like even just a star underneath to give you just that impression, and then you can accent it on top with more embroidery to pop it out more, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And the final step, once you're all done, is, and you don't have to do this, but if you want to, and you want to make that edge a little bit more frayed, just start pulling out some threads like that. And I found about 1/4 inch of fringe around it kind of looked really interesting. So I just sort of pulled some of those out. That one has already a pretty
big
fringe on it. But yeah, you just keep pulling little threads out and just start at the corners and catch them as you can. You'll see sometimes they'll have a few threads already hanging off just from working on them. But it's a nice little accent to give them that little bit of a fringe around, make them a little bit more interesting. And just keep going and put as much fringe as you want on them. And happy sewing.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, and I hope you really enjoy the project. Again, my name was Angie, and I'm one of the co-owners at the Painted Turtle Art Shop. So if you're ever needing any art supplies, you can come and find myself and Lorraine there. We do have the canvas. If that's what you choose and you want more of it, we can get you some more canvas. But all the supplies are pretty simple to find anywhere, really. Dollar Shop, Walmart, the crayons and the embroidery threads and that kind of thing are usually available anywhere that you're usually going. But yeah, again, you can always give us a shout there at the Painted Turtle. We're always happy to have people come and visit us and show us their art that they've made. And I hope that we get to see you again and do some other projects. Thanks. Bye.
Well, that is it. That was pretty fun, eh? It's a pretty versatile project. It's you can take it in a bunch of different directions. You can do a bunch of different additional little things. The more you play with it, the more you kind of discover of different techniques that you can do with texture and stencils and whatever. Yeah, thank you very much, Angie, for letting us in on that project. I never would have thought of that. I just came to her with a basic idea of placemats. What can we do? And she came up with that. Amazing. Bravo. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to Hannah and everyone at the Cookhouse for always making us feel welcome and having a blast there. We'll see what we do in the future. I really like doing these instructional videos. If you like them too, let us know. Subscribe, like, comment, send me a picture. The sculpture, I don't know. If you want to know more about us, cahep.ca. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on other stuff, maybe. I don't know. World's a big place. Yeah, we'll hopefully come back with some more instructional things. I think I'd like to do that in the future. If you have some ideas or things you'd like to do, or if you're an artist in Thunder Bay, get in touch with us. We always like to meet new people and see what we can all do together. Anyways, we'll see you later.